Washington State 31, Colorado 7, the fifth straight loss for these Colorado Buffaloes, who were once 5-0, ranked. Everything seemed right with the world, and they just keep falling down this slippery slope.
Yeah, they do, and they've actually scored first in each of these 5 games. So,
so bizarre.
5-0, and you have the lead in each of these last 5 games, and you don't win. And this one, all the others have been fairly close. This one ends up not being close, 31-7. It was a pretty close game for 3 quarters, but CU's offense could do nothing. I mean, here we thought all they needed was Laviska Shenault back, and that offense would spark. He comes back, and he played fairly well,
yeah.
But they can't do anything on offense, and that was surprising.
Yeah, under 300 yards of offense for Colorado. Montez under 200 yards of offense, and yeah, Shenault 120 yards. He did have a couple drops, had the fumble there, but he's the least of this team's problems at this point.
Yeah.
Again, the offensive line struggled. Montez is clearly just not trust himself back in the pocket at this point, and he didn't have a very good game. We've defended him at times this season, but he didn't have a very good day either.
No, he didn't. I thought this was really the first time this year I thought he didn't play that well. And I mean, I'm not going to say he played poorly. He wasn't like last year at Washington State, where he was just awful. The whole team was awful last year in Pullman, but he didn't have his best game. I thought this was really, for me, the first time he didn't play that well. Was off on a lot of throws, but he was hampered by some drops too. I mean, Shenault had a couple. There was other guys that had a couple as well. That's kind of been plaguing this team throughout this entire losing streak. Fumbles, 2 fumbles by the offense. Trayvon McMillan, his first fumble of the year happened. So these are things you don't expect to happen. They happen today.
Colorado's secondary actually played pretty well, considering the type of offense they were going against. Gardner Minshew, 23 incompletions. He missed a lot of throws there. So the one area we were really concerned about this football team really actually played okay. Yeah, they really did, and I think someone said in the post-game press conference, I didn't look this up yet, but a season-high 6 pass breakups, and they had a couple early in the game that, some very encouraging signs early. There was a 4th down play that Delrick Abrams made a great play, and CU came right back and scored a touchdown, and you thought, okay, they're off to a great start here, but they played pretty well. I mean, Gardner Minshew, that was a season-high, 23 incompletions, but, man, that kid's good. Yeah.
He finds a way to get it done, and he's not going to win the Heisman because Tua down at Alabama is going to do that, but that kid should be in New York. That's one of the best players I've seen. For me, the Heisman is about what kind of impact you have on your team. That kid has more impact on any team in the country, I think.
With Twitter, we hear what the fans are thinking and saying throughout the course of a game. A lot of frustration over this team's lack of aggression offensively. There were a couple times, 4th and short, near midfield, they decided to punt. And the one that really stands out is you're down 17-7. It's in the third quarter, late in the third quarter. Yes, it's 4th and 11. You've had a hard time converting in third downs. But you're at the Washington State 36-yard line. Right. There's not a whole lot to be gained from a punt in that situation.
Yeah, and Mike McIntyre was asked that, and he gave a long explanation, and it all makes sense. I understand the reasoning, but at the same time, I think that when you've lost 4 in a row and you've got the number 10 team here, you're only down 10, and there's 17 minutes left, and your offense hasn't done a whole lot, and you're finally in their territory, I think you've got to take a shot. I mean, who cares if you don't get it? I mean, if you don't get it, big deal. It ends up, what they end up getting? 15, was it 20 yards or something that they gained out of the punt? Big deal. It doesn't mean a whole lot. And that's the type of thing that the fans are irritated about. And I understand it, that Mike McIntyre doesn't show that aggression. And you want to see that out of him saying, you know what, we're going for this thing. That's the type of thing that like a Mike Leach will do. Mike McIntyre never does that, and that's why they lose these games.
Yeah. And you asked Mike McIntyre in the post-game press conference if he feels like he's under any pressure. He gave an answer that he feels like he's being supported 100%, feels no pressure, loves it here in Boulder. I mean, he's clearly on the hot seat at this point.
Yeah, I think he's clearly on the hot seat. I mean, I see a man in there that is putting on a good face and trying to finish the season strong and trying to get these kids to a bowl game. But he's got to understand. I mean, he's got to understand that there's some pressure, and maybe he is outwardly getting support from the administration. But I can't imagine that inside those offices that there's a lot of support for him right now. And frankly, all the signs are pointing towards this being towards the end for him. I mean, I give him a lot of credit. He's turned this program around. This program is in much better shape than when he took it over. He did a great job in 2016. The recruiting has been better. All those things he pointed out, but this thing is stalled, and I think it's time to. I think we're getting to that point where it's time to move on.
Even if they get a win or two, do you still think that could change things here? We got two football games left.
I think it could, but I guess as we stand here right now with the 5-game losing streak and the way it's going, I think that it's on its way to time. Let's put it that way. I look at this team, and I know there's a lot of good players on the team, and I know that they have the ability mentally and physically to go out there and win these next 2 games. But the way they're playing, I just don't see it. And if they don't, then I think that you've almost got to make a change. If they can win the next 2, they look good, then maybe you reconsider.
I guess, yeah, the silver lining to your point is no matter what happens these next 2 weeks, if there's a coaching change, you feel much better about the next coach coming in than you did about what Mike McIntyre inherited. I think no matter what happens, he'll always get credit from CU fans for doing that. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Jeff Buzdelik on the basketball side.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I hope that fans, there's not a lot of love for Dan Hawkins around here, and there really probably shouldn't be. Right. And right now there's not a lot of love for Mike McIntyre, and I get it. But whenever his time is over here, whether it's here in a couple weeks, a couple days, a few years from now, I hope fans look back at him and give him some credit because he's done a lot for this program, and it is in better shape than it was when he took over. You can't deny that.
Mike McIntyre said they hope to get Jay McIntyre back. They hope to get Evan Worthington back. They hope to get Katie Nixon back. Nate Landman will hopefully not get disqualified from another game. Real quick, before we sign off on that, what in the world can Nate Landman do in that situation? If a quarterback is going to put himself out there, get out of the pocket, try to go for a first down, and then put his head down, you got to be. There's no way that should be a penalty, and especially not disqualifying a guy that just happens to be your best defensive player. Yeah,
I thought that was a great play by Nate Landman, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess by the letter of the law, it was a targeting call, but this is why. And I'm not saying this is someone that covers CU. This is just when I watch college football across the country, they've got to do something with that rule to where they alter it somehow, where it's not just an automatic ejection, because that did not deserve an ejection. Yeah. There was another play later in the game that I can't remember who the receiver was, but there was a guy from Washington State that tackles a CU guy, and it was helmet to helmet. I thought it was more egregious than what Nate did, and there's no call whatsoever. It was an incomplete pass, and it was a running back or something like that. So it's not a quarterback. It's just so inconsistent, and that's why I don't like the automatic ejection, because it is such a judgment call. It is so inconsistent. You can't do that to these kids, and Nate Landman made a great play, and that kills CU to have your best defensive player out like that.
Yeah, again, I get you want to protect the players, but if you as a player are going to put your head in that situation, that's on you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
5 weeks ago, we never could have thought we'd be talking about a 5-5 football team, but here we are. We'll be back on Monday with some more analysis.